Welcome to episode 20 of the At Bat Baseball podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news, as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez, along with Miles Porter. How are we doing today, man?
Hey man, doing good. Made it. It's a little bit later than what we're usually doing, but I have no problem with it. It's been a crazy week to say the least for the both of us. So I'm
Uh,
glad we're here to doing what we love to do.
yeah, of course. I mean, usually we record, so we're recording this on a Wednesday at 8 p.m. Usually record what, Tuesdays at like 1, 12, something around that. So this is like At Bat Podcast after dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything can happen after dark.
Exactly. When the lights go out, danger. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Hey, well, I will say this: the lights definitely went out when I heard that you were MVP of the Milwaukee Jaguars, baby. Let's go!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hell
Thank
yeah! How
you,
do you
man.
feel? Yeah, give a speech.
Hey man, it feels good. It feels good to get that recognition on the Jags. There's a lot of kind of the same thing as being named to the All Star team. There's so much hard work that went into this season. I always suggest to like any player going into any season just to get as many reps in as you can. I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder with being like an honorable mention last year. So that kind of fired me up going into this year, and I look forward to what next year holds for me on this team and this squad in general. So I'm very, very, very grateful. Shout out to the Jags. Love those guys. Love my teammates.
Hell yeah! Congrats again.
Thanks,
And
bro.
we got MVP. I gotta add it to like your little nameplate. If I had like MVP 2022, let's go.
That works. That
Yeah.
works.
But I will say this: the Cubs are looking like they got a bunch of MVPs right now as they're playing.
Yeah.
We'll start off with the Cubs that are 48 and
Yeah.
67. They beat the Nats 2 out of 3. And since we've obviously since the last time we recorded, they beat the Nets again in the series from this week. But of course they also beat the Reds as part of that Field of Dreams game. And yeah, they continue to play great baseball, man. I mean, like now, as of right now, as of Wednesday, they're 13-9 in the second half, which is like mind blowing. And we've seen like a couple of good stretches for the Cubs this year, which is like a little bit of a breath of fresh air because it kind of like gives you optimism for next year and like who knows what can
Yeah.
happen with the right players and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I'll start off as we sit here in their 48 and 67. That Field of Dreams game was awesome. And
Oh my
the fact that
gosh.
they were able to win that, we'll start off talking about that because that was a highlight of the week. And just kind of, it kind of like, as people were saying too, that it was nice to like take a break from, just a bad season they've been having overall. And just kind of like, it's almost like their World Series, like their playoff type game or
Hmm.
their All-Star game type thing. And
Yeah.
the fact that it actually might be the last Field of Dreams game ever, which makes it a little more special. But what were your thoughts on that game, man?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's extremely special. I love how the players were really like receptive to everything going on. There was a lot of just like this feeling of wow, this is baseball. This is one of the most beautiful things about baseball. And I remember talking about it last year with my dad. When the Sox and Yankees played, it's just like the impact of this movie is so like it is you don't ever think about baseball without this movie.
Mm.
So I think it's really cool to just hear everyone's different perspectives, like Joey Votto's perspective and when Ian Happ was mic'd up and all these cool conversations that went on and how the players, what it meant to them in so many different ways. There's so many cool stories and what baseball really means to all of us is the same and it's also very different. So I thought it was great, and every time I was just watching that, anything that involves the Field of Dreams reminds me of me playing catch with my dad. So I loved it. I loved how the players, it was a great game. I loved how the performances on both sides, honestly, and it was just fun to watch. And the fact that it might be the last one, for Chicago teams to win both years, I'll take it every day.
Yeah, no, I thought that was appropriate too. Like that, it being if there is only like I was talking to a friend and I was like, it probably I feel like it won't be the last ever. Like I'm sure like maybe 20 years from now they'll be like, oh, let's do it
Yeah,
again or something like that down the
yeah,
line. But who knows what'll happen. But like yeah, that stadium's awesome and like
yeah,
the like just the atmosphere is so cool when they show like the drone shots of like everywhere's dark except for that little spot right there, and it's like the center of the baseball
Magical.
world for that night is in like a field in
Dude,
Iowa, which is
it's
awesome.
literally like travel baseball. It's so many players who play travel who listen to this. You know exactly what I mean when we go to a field beautifully lit in the middle of nowhere. There's corn or
Mhm.
whatever, or there's plains around it. It just brings you back to where like it all started. I just love that. I love that aspect because a lot of these guys, a few of these players probably haven't had that specific experience before. But you know, it's yeah, it's beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not to mention great performance by Drew Smiley, who
Yeah,
like was a player of the game, and just kind of was a spark plug for the Cubs. I mean that they had also a 3-run first inning that was also sparked by Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ, like those guys having big hits, and ever since or like after that, the Cubs really had control of the game, and that's how it ended up going for the Cubs. They won 4-2. For the rest of the week, though, again, just more success for the Cubs. They played the Nats and won that series 2 games out of 3. The Cubs couldn't get Joe Meneses out. The guy was just raking, like hitting bombs. I think he hit like one home run in each of those games of the series. And then in Game 3 of that series, a steal goes 6 innings, allowing 2 runs. And since the start of June, and this was he made a start to in this series. So it kind of I didn't update this one, but since the start of June, he has given up 3 earned runs or more only twice. So Steele again has been one of those guys that they've kept talking about. Then they want to keep him in the rotation, and he's going to be the part of the rotation. Him and Keegan Thompson are just some bright lights that are going to take us into next year. Horner also homered in that game. Ortega and Happ got big hits late to cement that series win. And then the rest of that series against the Reds, it was more of Cubs hitting, and Franmil Reyes, one of the newest Cubs,
yeah.
has been on fire since joining the Cubs. He's 11 for 30. He's got 6 extra base hits. And I saw an article today that said, he says, because he had another big game today at two hits. And he just says the Cubs let him be him. And I think that, I wonder what that says about the Guardians and how they, treated him over there or whatnot. But I wanted to get your thoughts. What do you think Franmil Reyes has done, and what do you think like his future is with the Cubs? Like if he stays next year, like what does he bring to the table?
Oh my gosh, I think he brings so much, so like such a cool dynamic to this team, and you know, in terms of like another power bat, another big man in the lineup. And going to your point when it comes to that change of scenery, it's such a big topic for so many players because there's plenty of players, in the MLB right now who are on a team or were on a team and maybe they're underperforming. I'm pretty sure there's a few names that come to our minds as soon as I say that. And as soon as you go to another team, it's kind of like a restart. It's like a
Mhm.
reset. I'm a new player, new setting, new teammates, new fan base, stadium. Everything is kind of like a start over. You're kind of able to take like a breath of fresh air a little bit. Um, so I think that's been the case with him because he looks happy. I'm seeing him smile every single game, and he's having fun. I don't know what went wrong exactly when he was on the Guardians. But whatever he's doing on the Cubs, whatever atmosphere that he's been introduced to is resonating with him very well, and he's simply just very, very comfortable. And I love that. There's been plenty of teams that I played on where I was like, I'm not feeling it, and with me not feeling it, it's kind of translating to my play, and I'm not comfortable on the field. I'm not maybe not too comfortable with certain teammates. Um, it says a lot. It says a lot that camaraderie is so important when it comes to every single team that you come across because it does impact. It impacts how you perform.
Yeah, and I think that what he's saying, like that the Cubs let him be himself. I think that probably does a lot for you, and as
Yeah.
as you're saying, it affects your game too. Like the
Mhm.
fact that you can just be the player that you're supposed to be, and that's something you're not. I think it gives him a level of comfort and a level of confidence, and that's what it's helping him because he's absolutely raking. And I
Yeah.
love the way the dude hits opposite field. I mean, the dude hits rockets to the opposite field.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's just been doing that. And what's funny is I saw a TikTok. These guys they interview. I forget the name of the TikTok account, but they interview guys in the field, and like before the game, and they interviewed Franmil the other day, and they asked him, what he would be if he wasn't a baseball player, and he says that he always says that he'd be a model, and he's like not a runaway model, but he said he'd want to be like a like those like clothing models, and like he's like I'd model underwear.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
I'm
I can
like,
see it.
I know.
Yeah, I can see
I'm
that.
like, okay, Fredmo, okay, I see. So if we ever see him in
Right.
like if we see him after his career in like a Gap magazine, we know why. Like it was his dream.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so the Cubs ended up winning that series as well against the Reds. In that the third game of that Reds game or the third game of the Red series, Wisdom, Gomes, and Morel all homered. But the Reds offense ended up coming alive to salvage the third game of that series. Keegan Thompson threw 70 pitches in one inning and two-thirds, which is tough for him. That's the first time since Rich Hill in 2007 that a pitcher threw 70 pitches and didn't get out of the second inning for the Cubs. So that was a rough outing for him. But either way, he's kind of getting to his innings limit, anyways. I believe he's actually over. So it'll be time for the Cubs soon to either shut him down or just going to go easy on him a little bit. And then, of course, the Cubs ended up winning another series that started this week, and it was against the Nationals again. The Cubs, they took a 3-0 lead on the back of two half home runs, and the Nats ended up erupting for four in the fifth, and the Cubs ended up tying it again, and then Nelson Cruz homered, man, and so they went down 5-4 in that game. In that game, actually, it was something else I wanted to talk about in this one is that Marcus Stroman was taken out in the fifth inning, and Ross admitted to making a mistake, and maybe he took him out a batter too soon, and he ended up talking to Stroman about it, and they were cool about it. But what are your thoughts on there? Like, watching that game? Like, did you have thoughts like, oh, maybe he took him out too soon, or it was the right decision? Because the runs that were scored, all the runs that were scored in that game, they were all
Yeah.
unearned because there was a McKinstry throwing error.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Sometimes some of those moves are such a difficult judgment call, and you never know if you made a mistake until after you take that pitcher out of the game. Um, I think he did take him out a little bit early. And I know that there is still a little bit of a keep, kind of preserving him a little bit, kind of, still easing some things back and into the game in terms of his innings pitched. And you know, I'm really not mad at David Ross for it. I think it's good that he took accountability for it. But I think in certain situations, you got to let your guy go a little bit longer, because sometimes it's if errors happen, it's not the pitcher's fault. Yes, he's going to throw more pitches, but it's more likely than not that he's able to get the next batter out. So that's how I've always seen it. So I think and Ross is still, for the most part, is kind of a young manager, not too young. Obviously he's going into his third season as a Cubs manager, which is crazy to say already. But there are clearly some things that he's still learning and still kind of maneuvering when it comes to this consistently changing roster of the Cubs. So it's you know it happened. The Cubs they also could have came back and won that game as well. It was very close. But it is what it is, and hopefully you know Rossi learned from it.
Yeah, and it was one of those things too where like you would rather Ross do this in a season like this, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
if I was a couple articles I read, they were like, yeah, if this was like a game like when the Cubs were in the pennant race, it'd be a big deal.
yeah,
It'd have more of a microscope on it. But and yeah, and as long as he kind of recognizes it, I think it shows the growth of him and also Stroman, kind of saying, like he believes in Ross and all that. And it's cool that he talked to him after the game and let him know how he felt.
yeah,
I think that's huge, and I think that's the positive. I think if it went unaddressed, it could have like led in other ways, and um, it would have been interesting to see what Stroman thought about that. After the fact, if he didn't talk to Ross. Um, but yeah, so after that, the Cubs ended up winning that series. And again, like on the back of guys like Franmil Reyes, Yan Gomes, they had some big hits in that series. Justin Steele was great again in game two, and just continues to impress. Yeah, so the Cubs again, 13-9 to start the second half. Um, You know what? It's going to be a nice if they are able to keep this up, and it's going to be nice to kind of take that momentum into next season, and kind of might be something that could help them next year with all, especially with all the young players. I mean, we're like Nick Madrigal, like he's looking really good at the leadoff spot. Who knows if he's going to stay there forever? But right now he's playing really well there. He's got a great on base percentage over 400, I believe. So he's killing it right now, and he belongs there. So hopefully that's something that's again will help them towards 2023. And yeah, they're looking at their schedule. They got a makeup game against the Orioles on Thursday, and then 3 at home against the Brewers, which should be good. Every time those two teams meet, it'll be good, and of course, playoff implications for the Brewers. So hopefully the Cubs can play spoiler there. We're gonna move on now to the White Sox. They're 61-56 as we sit here on Wednesday. They're actually playing the third game, the rubber match. Or actually, not the rubber match. They won the first two, but looking to win 3 out of the 4 games. I was going to say sweep, but it's 4-game series. I mean, that would be an enormous series win. As we'll just start off there because the fact that I think at the end of yesterday's day of games, they were a game back as the Guardians lost. Both them and the Twins were just a game back in the AL Central, so they're inching closer, man. And they're on a 5-game winning streak, and which is crazy now. And they're now officially 5 games over 500. And it was like I think when they won the first game, they were 4 games over 500, and it was the first time since April 16th that they were 4 games over 500. What are you seeing from the White Sox right now? Is there something different, or just like what has changed for the White Sox over the last 5 or 6 games?
I think they found their identity. I think they are starting to click on all cylinders, in which we know that they can. Like I've said, this isn't a bad team. This is really supposed to be one of the best teams in the MLB. So what I'm seeing from them is a lot of confidence. I'm seeing some incredible starts. The White Sox are funny. They're very funny to me because this is a team that is, like I say, is so full of talent, and I know if they're able to click on all cylinders the way that they can, there's no reason why they don't win this division. They've caught fire just at the right time. So you keep your fingers crossed that they keep going with all this. And they're doing this without Timmy. They're doing it without Tim Anderson. So I think it goes to show that this is a very deep ball club. Yoel Moncada with a big hit the other day, and Liam Hendriks shutting the door. This is who this team is. So to see them kind of it start to click at the right time. Thankfully, the Guardians have not ran away with this division by any means, nor have the Twins. That works in their favor as well. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of that as the best as you can against the team. Again, with two teams in this division that haven't exactly ran away with everything, haven't found their strides, and the Guardians have lost their last 2 games. Twins have won their last 3, but you know, Sox are looking good. 7-3 of their last 10. I like it. I like it. Turn it up. Turn me up right now. Let's go. Finish it. Finish it as best as you can right now. So I'm loving it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and it's just been like a new team watching these guys. And the thing is, like, it's all coming together. They're pitching a little better and they're hitting a little better at the right time. And like, it's always about who gets hot, right? And if they get hot at the right time, like at the end of the season, I mean, anything can happen. Obviously, we've seen what has happened. I mean, look at the Braves last year, and we kind of talked about it last week with Robert Flores. Is like maybe Tim Anderson was like could be their rallying cry, right? I mean, he's out for a long period of time, and they could be like what could like their reason to fight right now, more than ever. And so they ended up last week started a little rough, so they haven't really had a rough series since then. Until last week, they lost a series to the Royals 3 out of 4, and they were able to bounce back and sweep the Tigers. And then of course Luis Robert sprained his wrist, but the X-rays were negative in that Tiger series, but he was day to day at the time. And then of course in that Royal series, Brady Singer. I mean, he owns the Sox there. I mean, he owns a 507 OPS versus them this season. And he's the Royals ace of that staff, of that young staff. So it was interesting to see that matchup, and we'll probably see it again this season with the Royals. In that second game, the Sox were able to bounce back with a 3-2 win. Davis Martin with his fourth career start, 5+ innings, 1 earned run. Yohan Moncada, who you mentioned, who's starting to get on on a hot streak. That was his first home run since July 17th in that game against the Royals. Lennon Sosa got his first career home run, so that was good to see. And then Cueto, it seems like he does this every time, and we'll talk about it when we're going into the Astro series. But he gives up like 9 hits and just 2 runs. I mean, it seems like a very um Johnny Cueto start this year. But the Sox weren't able to win that game. MJ Melendez with a clutch home run off Diekman. And then in game four, sees K's 8 in 6 innings, but Greinke outlasts him in a 5-3 loss. And of course, that Tiger series again was nice to see for the Sox to kind of get back on track with the sweep. Kopech, K's 11 in game one. Vaughn was clutch in game two. And then he was clutch again in game three. They completed the sweep behind Lance Lynn and Pollock and the Vaughn hits. And then the cool thing is how Christopher Kamka tweeted that Andrew Vaughn is the first White Sox player with the game-winning RBI in each game of a 3-game series since Kevin Youkilis in 2012. So that was pretty cool to see and good to see him get, because honestly at the beginning of the season we were talking about Andrew Vaughn a lot, right? And it's like he might be an all-star, whatever this and that. Kind of cooled off a little bit, but he's been consistent, one of the more consistent hitters for the Sox. So, and then of course that this Astro series that has been, has had the spotlight. A lot of people paying attention to this one because it could be that spark that finally gets the Sox going this year. And they won the first 2 games, currently down in game 3 right now. But you can't rule them out, especially for the first 2 games. They came back late. Cueto again allowed 2 runs in 8 innings. He got the win there. And then I wanted to see what you thought. Also, you saw how Tony La Russa with the listening to the fan. So people, you could say that he listened to the fan, but like who knows? Obviously, what happened. But it sure seemed like, because the guy was yelling, "Hey Tony, pinch run!" Pinch run
Yeah,
Angle, and literally
yeah.
as soon as a few moments after Angle ran out there to pinch run. What were your thoughts when you saw that?
I love Chicago. I really do. That's the most Chicago
Yeah,
thing to happen at a White Sox game. I can see a Cubs fan doing that as well. I mean, look, it, clearly this is a fan that knows his team very well, and a lot of people were thinking what he was thinking for Angle to go in there and pinch run. Just from the way the video looks, like the way it's like shot, it seemed like he kind of told the Russo. It looked like he did tell him. So I don't know. Maybe Tony already had that in mind, but from past instances that we've had with Tony La Russa, I wouldn't be surprised if that fan really did kind of remind him or tell him, and Tony was like, "Oh, right, yeah, time, Angle, go run a second." It seems like that might be the more realistic story. Now, maybe he doesn't hear him with all the screaming and cheering going on, but I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know, if this guy maybe did kind of just remind the Russo, like, oh yeah, I should put a faster runner in there, a better base runner in there. So I love it. I love that. It also kind of shows that Sox fans really care about this team winning. Um, I think another aspect of it, Sox fans may feel that Tony La Russa hasn't done the best job, which has been a very common statement that I've been hearing lately. So you know, it's good to see the Sox fans behind their players, and for them to care as much as they do to tell the manager to pinch run for someone. So I love it. I love it because there are still a lot of Sox fans that are invested and they see that there is something special brewing right now. So they want to, get involved as much as they can. So I love that. I really do.
yeah, and it looked like you listened to him because of like the hesitation. It was like it didn't look like Tony was gonna do it before, and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. So
I
like
think the
that's how I
pitch
was
was
like,
about to be thrown too. Then he was like, "Oh
yeah,
wait,
yeah.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
like time. So it's like
yeah,
that was really funny, and that would be really funny if you did listen
yeah,
to him, because I'm like, hey, maybe Tony's finally he gets it, man. He's like, you know what, maybe I should hear these guys out, maybe they and
yeah,
as we're talking too, it's like Yohan Moncada had another big hit. It's 3-1 now, Astros in the fourth inning. So dude keeps hitting. And the thing is with that guy, I feel like we've always waited for that guy to just carry the offense because when he gets out, he can carry an offense. But like we need to see that for a full season. But hell, if he can do that right now and carry the White Sox offense for a little bit, I mean, it also goes without saying. I mean, Jose Abreu, dude, MVP form might be an understatement. Dude leads the league in hits, and he just like goes out there every day, gets 2 hits, and it's like, dude, I mean, you can't say enough how important that guy is to the White Sox, and the fact that he almost didn't come back, like like the fact that they obviously they gave him his deal, but like there was a little time where people were like, is he going to come back? Are they going to move on from Abreu? And you really can. I don't see a Sox team winning this in this decade without Abreu being on that team because he's so important to the clubhouse. And yeah, so what do you think about Jose Abreu and the stretch he's had? It's been a while. He's been doing this for a while now. It's not even like a hot stretch. It's been a few hot months. It's the whole season. He's been hot. So just what do you think he means to this White Sox team and what he's been doing?
Dude, he's everything. He's everything to this ball club. I think he's one of the heart and souls of this team. Obviously we talk about Tim Anderson a lot, and Andrew Vaughn and other players, but really the player who's been here for a while and has established himself in 9 years to accumulate 1,300 hits. This is a big leaguer. He's a true big leaguer. And he was off to a bit of a rough start this year, if you remember. And we were wondering if this was going to be a down year for him. And I think because of that start, obviously he wasn't, voted into the All-Star game. But when you look at this entire season as a whole, it's incredible. And like you said, he's consistently hitting. He's consistently hitting every game, averaging like 2 hits. And as we're talking right now, it's 135 hits. And last year he had 148. Yeah, he's on pace to have more hits than he did last year in less at bats, less plate appearances. So that says so much about what kind of big leaguer he is. And the Sox are not a winning team without him. They don't get anywhere without Jose Abreu.
Yeah, and it's like I was like, dude, the Sox need to resign this guy. Like, it's just
Yeah,
you can't. He's like the one of their faces. So it's like, and it's cool that how he's been embraced over the last few years, and just like how much they love this guy. And obviously, he won MVP in a shortened season, but it means something. And we saw how much it meant to him that year he won. I remember his speech. He was, had a family around him. Dude was in tears, and it was cool to see, him, kind of get what he deserves there, and he's still doing it. So also, in this series, Liam Hendricks, has completed after yesterday's game, Tuesday's game. He got his 18th straight save, and I feel like it was just yesterday that we were talking about this guy's struggles in May. So this guy has just
yeah,
come back and not only become an all-star again, but just been lights out. And sure, he gets a couple guys in there. I know I get some texts from my friends that are White Sox fans, and they're just like, "Man, this guy's putting guys on base." But you know what? He's got that strikeout pitch, and he's been able to get it done. And hopefully for the Sox, he's able to find the zone a little better in the ninth inning, and because obviously in postseason you can't be putting guys on in the ninth inning, no matter what the situation. So but yeah, as long as he's executing, I think that's the important part, and hopefully continues to do that. And then Dylan Cease, it was the first time he gave up a more than one run in his start. It was in that series, or sorry, in that game against Verlander. It was Cease versus Verlander. Great pitching match, one of the best ones of the season. Verlander won the duel, but of course the Sox won the game with another late comeback. So the Sox are looking to win the series, clinch the series today on Wednesday with the third game. They're currently down 3-2 in that game. So we'll see what happens there. One more versus Houston after today. And then they have a huge Cleveland series at Cleveland this weekend. And I mean, what do you expect from that Guardian series? I think that's going to be a ginormous series for these guys. And it might be one of those series that helps decide the division.
yeah. That series is like that. That is as pinnacle as it gets for this team this year because that's what you're chasing, right? You gotta go in there. You gotta go in there and take care of business as much as you can. Both of these teams are hot right now, so it's gonna be so fun to watch. That's gonna be a fun series because the Guardians are not going to hand the White Sox anything, but the White Sox are demanding what they feel is rightfully theirs. So I'm excited. I'm super excited. I think it's gonna be some really good competitive baseball. I think we're gonna see some emotions come out as well because we are starting to get to that time of year where it really is going to start to be crunch time and a little bit of a now or never, kind of feeling. Because I don't think the Guardians are going to do well if they end up getting a wild card spot. I don't. I think they're going to feel much better about themselves. Any team in general, specifically more with the Guardians, just because they have been. I think that they've surprised themselves a little bit this year, but I don't think they want that wild card spot. But the White Sox are coming in hot. They've caught fire, so they're gonna go. They're going into this series very confident, but also the Guardians are very confident in keeping what's theirs, and that's first place in the AL Central. So you know, it's gonna be fun. Excited.
Yeah, and like the thing is too when we talk about wild card, I don't think there'll be two teams coming out the AL Central. Like I just don't
Right.
see that. You never know, it's crazy, but you just look at the teams that are in there, it's so competitive that like with the records the AL Central teams have, they probably won't see. So whoever wins the division is probably the only AL Central team to make it in. And the
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Sox, yeah, the Sox primed to be in there. If they could just, beat the Guardians when it matters most. And we've talked about it and we said it multiple times, like you said it before. The Sox are a talented team. I think when you put all these teams when you pin these teams together, talent wise on the field, Sox have the most talent in the AL Central. So it will only be appropriate if they come out of the Central, and hopefully they do. So got to win those games. And of course, as talking about the postseason earlier, postseason schedule came out. It starts on October 7th, with the World Series starting on October 28th. It's always good to see those calendars come out because you just know it's getting real close to postseason baseball, the best time of the year. So hopefully the Sox are in there in the thick of it. We'll finish off with a little bit of around the league, and the main story in the past week or so has been Fernando Tatis. Of course, comes out that he's been suspended for 80 games due to failed drug test for performance enhancing drugs. And I know you said you had a lot to say about this, and I mean, everyone does. I think at this point, just go ahead, floor is yours.
Yeah. So I think there's not much that I can say that hasn't been said already. It's terrible for the game of baseball. Number one. Number two. I think I think his teammates have the right to feel the way they do. Um, he's so entertaining. This dude's so entertaining to watch play, and it's a shame. It's a shame because they put together such a squad this year. Um, you know, when Mike Clevenger sounds off on it, no one's questioning it because that's how they feel. They want their player that this organization wants their player that they've invested so much into financially and so much time and the MLB and the marketing, all of it. It's not good. It's not good at all. It's unfortunate. Um, and my whole thing about it is with the level that he plays at and the team that he plays for, anything that he needs to get treated, whether it's ring, whatever, you have so many sources around you. You have so much. You have access to so much more than what most people have in their lives. That's where I am disappointed. Is just that if you're unsure about something or if you get something and you're not looking into it the way you can, and you get caught and you have to face the consequences. You have to deal with it. Um, I think that's where I'm kind of annoyed with it, where it's just like, dude, you got a $340 million contract or something like that. Like, you got the resources. You got an organization that'll help you with all that stuff. Don't just pick something up and put it in your body or put it on. Don't do that. That is ridiculous. Use your resources. You are more than able to take care of what you had to take care of without taking it into your own hands and not knowing whether you did or not is, to me, is nor here or there. Is a stand on his career going forward. That's just how it is. Um, but it's just annoying because that kind of high profile person with that money and what you do for a living, you could have solved that issue without that happening. If that really is the reason, if you are trying to enhance your performance on the field, for what? You're one of the best players in the world. There's no reason for you if you're trying to speed up, trying to get back to the field, whatever it is. It's foolish. I don't agree with it. You're better than that. Um, got a lot of work to do. Got a lot of repairing to do in many ways. As a teammate and to the fans of baseball, to the hometown fans of the Padres, there's a lot of work to do for.
But yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I mean, it's a complete letdown. Like that's like as much as I could say, like it's one of those things that it sucks because like is a dude that a lot of kids looked up to, and it's like I mean, dude, it just reminds me of A-Rod.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Like the whole A-Rod thing, like at the time when it happened, you're just like, dude, like all the kids that look up to him see this type of stuff. And it's funny because uh in our class, I remember when we met, you did a project on the whole steroid era and all the
yeah,
steroids in general, blah blah blah. And dude, I mean, it was great and kind of like it brings us back to that conversation of just what this means to the game, and unfortunately, it keeps happening. And you know what? It's happened a lot over the past like 10 years, like more than you
yeah,
probably realize. But the thing is, like a
yeah,
lot of the guys are like not superstars. When it happens to superstar, obviously is when everyone pays attention.
yeah,
But yeah, super disappointing, and just another black guy to the game that we love, um, and it's one of those things where like even like you said, let's say, I mean, I personally don't believe the whole it was for ringworm and this and that. Like I
yeah.
personally don't believe that because at the end of the day, that still brings up a red flag of like, dude, it's still irresponsible. You still put
So
something in
yeah,
your body without
yeah,
checking. Like it's still not a cop out. Like you're not like, oh, true, you didn't mean to do that. Like you should have checked. And like you said, you have a lot of resources to be like,
yeah,
hey, should I put this in my body? Ask the team, ask MLB this and that. If they
yeah,
say no, then don't do it, whatever. And yeah, and he didn't do that. So,
yeah,
and he's been in the league for a few years now. The injuries, maybe he got desperate. So many injuries. Who knows? That he wanted to do that, and who knows? But I'm sure we'll never get a straight answer, at least now. And kind of A-Rod kind of talked about it. To bring up A-Rod again is like how
hmm
he was saying how like he wished that younger guys like Tatis would learn from his mistakes. And he said he was saying how like it almost brings him to tears to like that this type of stuff still happens and that nobody learned from what he did. And yeah, dude, it's like we've seen this story multiple times now, and it's like how many times we got to see until people stop doing it. And also another thing too is like that these may not ever be a Hall of Famer now. Now that he did this, and Bonds is still not in there, A Rod's not in there, and those guys that had stellar careers, he might not be a Hall of Famer anymore, and that sucks. So, um, we hope that guys can learn from this, and this hopefully this never happens again. Unfortunately, probably will, and it's just the way it goes. But it sucks that we have to end on a sad note, but it's just the way it is. It's kind of reality in baseball, and stuff that's we feel like I feel like it's so tired. It's a tired topic that we've talked about it forever. At least in the last like 20 years when we've watched baseball. It must have been nice not to talk about it for like baseball like in the 80s, 70s, 60s if people didn't talk about it. It must have been nice not to have that cloud hanging over your head, but it is what it is. A couple of things I wanted to touch on was just the Braves and the Mets series. Everyone's got to watch that series because it's like it's playoff baseball at its best. Two teams just going at each other's necks. And Braves so far have gotten this series off to a hot start, and they're looking to claw back into the AL East race. Also, one more thing too, the Yankees. I'm not worried about the Yankees one bit. They're having a rough stretch right now, and I think they're going to be, if they lose again tonight to the Rays will only be 7 games back in the win column. Still not worried at all. I think the Yankees will find it, and they'll be fine. But yeah, other than that, anything else, Miles, that you got for us?
Baseball is a beautiful sport. This is, this is one of the most fun parts of the year. We always say this is the dog days of August, but I think this has been one of the most entertaining Augusts
Hmm.
alone. Just in terms of retention, unfortunately, negative and positive. It's baseball. Baseball is a long season, so we're gonna have a lot of ups and downs each year. But I think with everything going on right now in the MLB, with certain teams cooling off, because certain teams getting hot. Unfortunately, one of the MLB stars getting suspended for 80 games. Uh, it all plays into the story of 2022, and we got about a month and a half left. So it's going to come down to the wire, and all this plays into this big finish that I think this year is going to have. So, uh, you know, if there's a way to leave on a positive note, I look at it like that. This is all part of the story of 2022, which makes it more interesting for all of us. So, so all my baseball fans, keep your heads up, stay invested. This is getting good.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what the league wanted, right? It's like with these the extra wild card and having the wild card series, they're gonna
Yeah,
have a lot of teams in it at the
yeah,
end of September. a lot of teams that are going to get their hearts broken. A lot of teams are going to be, celebrating, their first postseason berth in a long time, like maybe
Yeah.
the Mariners. So we'll
Right.
see. Definitely a lot of baseball to go. So that'll wrap things up for another episode of the At Bat Baseball podcast presented by War Media. We hope everyone has another great week. This is Saul Rodriguez with Miles Porter signing off.